Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. Have a very special young lady here. She's talking about Wall Street and talking about giving mentoring young people. You know, this is so very important. She mentioned one word which I don't have much here, but it's still as Wall Street. I think Wall Street is something that's the epitome of finance is Wall Street. Everybody talks about it. And I'm amazed at what Pam Reeves here is my guest, and she's been in the corporate world, Wall Street, mentoring, and making things positive. She has a positive attitude, and maybe that's the word. Welcome to the Ed Brown Show, Pam.
Well, thank you for having me, Ed.
Tell us about this organization that you have here and what it's called and how did you get into it?
Okay. Well, the name of my company is Nella LLC.
I didn't want to mess it up, so
that's
I'll let
okay.
You do it.
That's okay, I'll do it. And Nella LLC. And Nella LLC is actually an amalgamation of my parents' name. My father's name was Neil, and my mother's name was Novella. And they are my inspiration. They were people who had negligible resources, and they turned them into power. And so I grew up in the inner city, but I did not know I was in poverty because they were just that good.
And the inner city was Washington, D.C.?
No, Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. I am the youngest of 14 children. I have 9 brothers and 4 sisters. But as I said, my parents were people who understood the impact that power has on quality of lifestyle. So at a very young age, I was learning about what power does in your life, even when I wasn't actually conscious of it. So by the time I entered into the work world, I like to say that power...
And you're saying the corporate world or work? Now, it's a different corporate world and the work world.
Well, actually, I've had like an expansive career. I started out in state government, but I was never satisfied. There was something too confining about that. There were like, I think, 8 pay scales or steps, something like that. So that I was always restless, and when I was nearing 10 years, I was like, I got to do something. I think I'm going to try private industry. So my first...
Wow, that was a big bite.
Yeah, and at a very early age, I was attracted to that. And so my first attempt was with Amtrak in D.C. Now I'm a Baltimorean, but I was commuting to Amtrak in D.C. And that didn't work out because then I got there, still was restless. And I went back to Baltimore to a company called Commercial Credit. It was a financial services company.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
It had been around since 1912.
Yeah.
I was there probably 6 months, and we came in one Monday, and we heard that these Wall Street executives had purchased the company.
Wow.
And
overnight.
Yes, overnight.
No.
And
no,
and that was it was actually announced in the paper, in the Sunday paper. And I immediately panicked because I thought I just got back from D.C. and nobody knows me. And you know, sometimes you think about some of the thoughts that are out there, and to be honest, I thought, I'm African American. Nobody knows me. Nobody. So I will probably be leaving. And I was in HR, and but I still was bold. And when these executives from Wall Street were looking for executive assistants and special assistants to work with them, I asked the VP of HR about that, and she says, "I'll look into it for you." She didn't look into it. She didn't. No, nothing happened. No. And what started out as offensive was the best thing that happened to me. One day, these men wanted someone to sit at a receptionist's desk during lunch.
Out front.
Yes, and she volunteered me. I was furious. I was furious, like, how dare you? I'm a professional, and you volunteer me to sit at a receptionist's desk. So I went up to the 18th floor, sat down, and I had the nastiest, ugliest look on my face because I was hot.
That's because of your upbringing. What you had, 9 brothers?
Yeah, how dare you do this to me? Well, within a week, I got a call from the senior vice president of HR, and he said, can you come up here? And I went to the 18th floor. He had a paper in his hand. He says, are you satisfied with your job? And back in those days, in the paper, the good jobs were always identified with a number, because back then, I'll tell you one, we can talk about it now,
right.
because they didn't want anybody, just anybody, referring to coming for the job.
Right.
So I thought, oh
so
my,
they used code.
Yeah, so I thought, oh my God, I sent my resume out and it came back here.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what he had in his hand, so I had to be careful. I said, it's okay, but it's not challenging enough. He says, well, senior management wants to meet you. And we talked about it. So he made the first interview. I went up, and they asked me about, things that are Wall Street type things.
Yeah.
And I was honest. I said, well, I have no idea, but I don't fail at anything.
Positive.
So I left, and that's when this gentleman called me. How did you like it? Did it go well? I said, it went well. He says, well, they love you. They want you. And that's when I said, I don't want it, because if they let this Caucasian female go, they'll let me go. And I don't know anybody. And he says, how could you just pass up this opportunity? I said, well, let's do this. I'll come up to the 18th floor for a day, and I'll see how I like it. He says, you can't do that. You can't do that. I said, well, okay.
So we're in charge, not you.
I said, okay, goodbye.
Right.
And he called about an hour later, and he says, they want you to come up.
The positiveness that you exhibited. But a lot of youngsters have difficulty doing that. And we talked about mentoring. I'm high on mentoring youngsters, because they really, their opportunity for exposure is limited to a certain level.
Right.
You see, they're usually a certain level that they just can't get above, because maybe it could be the influence from the friends or the family. Or you're wasting your time. And then you find this thing that I'm not qualified. Some youngsters disqualify themselves because of the environment they're going in.
Absolutely. And those of us who have opportunity, it is our responsibility to create access for them. It is our responsibility. If we've been blessed somehow that things worked out for us, it is our responsibility. The world is different now. Ways of communication is different. It is our responsibility to go back and let them know, and to be candid. If you come from that, let them know you come from that. You may see something now, but let them know, I understand. I come from the inner city. But we can change this, your relationships. If there are bad relationships at home, then you need to talk to somebody about that. And we need to teach them about power, and power in the true sense, not power when you're taking over people or stealing or attempting to steal power from someone else. We have to define it in its purest sense so that they know what power is and know how to use it.
Well, it's so very important, just like our country is run by a corporation and it's run by the political system, and the political system runs the corporations, and they need to know things like that. And like you say, we that have had exposure, and the type of exposure you're talking about is something that you have to really be almost trained to be able to get over it, because your environment is negative.
Right.
See, from the beginning. See, and the things that you mentioned, I've been through. I'm a research chemist, and I've been through in the 70s and all. I went to one of those tip-top pharmaceutical houses, and people say, "Hey, Ed, you wasting your time," and they were right. But I didn't let that stop me, because when I walked in, the lady there, she wasn't being nasty or anything. She said, "Sir, I'm sorry, but all the custodian positions are finished." This was so right away I read the attitude here. Here I am in a suit, tie, briefcase, and all. And as soon as I wrote the receptionist, when you mentioned the receptionist, but these are things. These are things that youngsters need to know that you have to be prepared for. It's not all over. Just because you have the qualification doesn't mean that you're going to be accepted.
Absolutely.
And you have to be prepared for those disappointments.
And that's why your power and your love has to start from within.
Right.
Because rejection will be there.
Right.
It is what it is. So when someone rejects you, you have enough confidence in yourself to know, okay, they made that decision. They don't want me, but their decision is not me. I still am worthy. I still have gifts and talents. This just isn't a fit for me, but their opinion is not my fact. And that's what we have to teach young people. If you're turned down, don't allow that to diminish you.
Right. And that's so very important because a lot of youngsters, be it true or not, they come from a negative environment.
Right.
They were raised in a situation where the last one to, gain anything from whether it's a building, Congress, or whatever.
Right.
They've always at the bottom,
right.
And they get to the point that they accept, well, it's normal for me to be on the lower end of the ladder. I'll just be passive and just accept this.
Right.
How do you get past that when the youngster actually experiences these negative things?
Well, to be honest, you have to be honest with them, and you just can't go in and have a conversation and leave. Because sometimes we will dress up something, and our youngsters are attracted to nice tennis, nice clothing. All of that is theater, and that will go away. And when someone attacks you or diminish you, you will implode. I don't care how pretty you look outside.
Right.
So that's why we have to start teaching this. And it can't be just a conversation here and there. It has to become a way of life.
Right.
Sometimes I talk to my husband about that with prayer. I'll say, you can't pray just in crisis. This has to be a lifestyle. When it's a lifestyle, then it becomes a part of you. So then we have to start teaching our young to be positive, and that's a lifestyle. Now, how do you get that positive lifestyle?
Let's hear it.
You can take that apart. Decisions.
Right.
And decisions, when we think of decisions, we think, okay, a decision has been made. But a decision is a stream of choices. And speaking with anyone, when I'm talking about decisions, that's what I break that down. It's a stream of choices. So let's start being conscious of your stream of choices. If you don't go to school, if you make the choice not to go to school, then you're making the choice not to get a diploma.
Right.
Then you're making a choice not to get a college degree. So you've made the choice you will never get but certain types of jobs. That stream of choices throughout your life will ultimately really define your life. So start teaching them about streams of choices. It can be very basic, but that basic choice early in life will probably impact something later in life.
But how do you get around the peer pressure? We live in a society, and the different things that we are attracted by, whether it's a house or shoes or whatever.
Give the truth unfiltered. Like earlier, before we started on camera, I mentioned about young women being attracted and wanting to dress.
Right.
Well, when I speak to young women, I say, your boyfriend paying for your nails and your hair, that's today. That's not going to impact your lifestyle. But if you take your gifts and your talents and you make wise decisions and you open up your own business, you can have all the pretty nails, all the pretty hair that you want, but it's only sustainable, which means it doesn't go away. if it comes from you. If you exercise power, power is your influence, your control, and your authority over your life. And when you do that, you are unstoppable. Nobody can take that away. Even if you hit a rough patch,
That's
you
the key.
still have the power to pivot and do something else with your life. You will never run out of opportunities because we are all born with power. We have it, just a lot of us don't know how to use it.
Right.
Or we use it in the wrong way. And I always say there's only one way you can lose power: abuse it.
Abuse it.
It's
right.
not a matter of if you're going to lose it, it's when you're going to lose it. Short of that, if you have a fail-proof power source, you will always be powerful.
Well, that comes in confidence in yourself.
Yes.
Because what happens, just like I said, the peer pressure, and you see it in all industries, even in the Wall Street Journal, is that you have to understand, and some people, they, instead of exposing themselves to it, they run away from it. I use the Wall Street Journal because a lot of people that I know don't read. And the basic of our economy is the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
And people don't understand how it works.
Yes.
Now.
And you know what? And the way we respond to things would be different if we understood all of that.
Right.
I remember during the last election when people were fearful and you heard all types of stories about what Mitt Romney was going to do. I'm a staunch Democrat. But the thought of a Mitt Romney White House did not intimidate me. It didn't scare me because I understood how Wall Street would react to him. And I understood they would probably gift him with allowing now the market to rise again. So anybody that was working in those types of environment or anybody who had invested in stock,
Right.
you were not going to suffer. But people who have no knowledge of that, who have no hope, the fear comes in because they don't understand how can I thrive in a culture like that.
In an environment like that.
Right.
And a lot of youngsters, they confidence in themselves. Usually, I think even in the schools, they don't build the confidence in the individual, in themselves.
Yes.
You know, I mean, they may grade a paper and, you know, you have to reach a certain, and then some people don't understand is that all of us can't be doctors, all of us can't be chemists, all of us, everybody has something to add to society.
Right.
Everybody has talent.
And it's of value.
Yeah,
it is of value. Right. So don't knock yourself if you can't go to college.
Right.
Because, you know, I talk about turning your purpose and your passion into profit. And some people will say, well, you know what? That sounds mercenary. And I'll come back and say, do you buy L'Oreal? Do you buy Under Armour? Well, you believe in that turning their purpose into their passion. Why not you? You know, if that's not the path, you have something that the world needs. And you should hone in on that. You should be proud of that, confident about that, and build around that. You know, confidence is it. Confidence is a part of image building. Right. When people think of image, it's normally just the appearance, but but image is much more than that. Yeah. That's why we hear those stories of sometimes, well, what is everybody attracted to? He seems so regular. Right. Well, people are attracted to that confidence. That person speaks with authority, and it's just something about that person that seems powerful. And so people want some of that. They want to do business with you. They want to buy your products because that power means they are entrusting something to you, this powerful person, and this person will deliver. So confidence is just so important in your image building. Okay, so with your subject matter, when you go to the school, how do you approach the youngsters? You usually use age limit, or just how do you
separate them because they have different interpretations of life. You know,
Right.
a teenager and a young person that really don't know how their parents are able to continue in an environment like this with which usually is a substandard environment.
Okay.
How am I gonna? I don't want to be in this position, you know, when I grow up. How many times have you heard that?
Right. Well, a lot. I actually use the same premise I use as a public speaker. Know your audience. If I go to 5-year-olds, I'm going to present it to them in a different way than if I do 13-year-olds.
But the point is, you get the point
Yes.
over on their level that they understand it.
Right.
See, sometimes a speaker will be above the level of the understanding of the audience.
And then they're ineffective. But
Right. Then they're ineffective.
If you want to be an effective speaker, know your audience.
That's the key.
And connect with the audience. Be approachable. Be, you know, just transparent.
Right.
To let them know that you're vulnerable, you've messed up, you may have come from
the reality
and
of life.
And if I can do this, then you can do this as well. The other thing as a coach, what I've learned to do is to
Tell
ask
us about
coping. I'm a power coach, and a good coach doesn't always have the answers, but a good coach knows how to ask probing questions. So
to get information about your subject.
Right, that's right, that's right. And when you do that, first of all, you're establishing a rapport.
Right.
You are saying, I'm interested in you.
Right.
I want to hear about your life. I want to hear about what concerns you. And maybe I can help you to answer some of your questions. I'm here for you. I'm here to cheer you on because I want you to be the best you that you can be.
Right.
And so that's how you connect with people. You don't come preaching from the mountaintop.
Right.
You know, I always go in and say, look, I'm coming from some valley experiences because I've been in some really ugly things myself. But that's why I'm here to tell you that you can always be great. I say step into greater greatness because all of us are already great.
Right. Give us some pointers for a young person coming out, and there's a lot of them out there now. I have received their degree in whatever subject matter, and they're having difficulty finding a job. When an individual runs into that, I have some of them actually go to private industry. And you know, in private industry, there's some financial steps that made it impossible
it's difficult.
for you. Right.
It is difficult,
Okay.
I will say
Tell
that.
us, how do you get over those humps?
Well, you have to approach more than, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I will say that. If you're interested in private and you can't get in, then try a government job, you know, and at least you will be honing your skills and developing your skills. And you don't have to stop pursuing a corporate job.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to stop pursuing, but there are alternatives. If you have something you're good at, then create your own business. Somebody needs your product, your services, your knowledge. Somebody needs that. In the interim, volunteer. That's still experience. That's still experience. But don't give up just because one entity, one organization rejected you.
Right.
That doesn't mean that doesn't devalue you. It means you are not suitable for that organization. If that organization doesn't accept you and you think, let's say you think there's something racial there, guess what? You don't want to be in that kind of environment anyway. I've been in the world's largest organizations, and I've seen some ugly things.
Right.
And if you don't know how to battle that,
They handle it.
You will lose because
Right.
there are a million
Right.
and one ways to destroy you.
Exactly.
And in that, and I always tell underlings or direct reports, know your job, because when people want to get rid of you, the first thing they say is there's a performance problem. That's always the fallback.
That's the first thing for
The
performance.
performance
Yeah.
problem. They're going to go after performance.
Well, what do you think of the museum that'll be opening here in the Washington, D.C. area? It's supposed to give the youngsters a real look at history of African Americans. That is supposed to open I think in the fall of 2016.
Well, you just said something that's key. It will give youngsters a real look.
Right.
Because they are probably just swamped with so much else going on in their world that they're not forced to laser focus on history.
History, exactly.
Because we appreciate it because we remember another time.
Right. We lived it.
Right. And so if you haven't seen that and it's so far removed, maybe that's why some of them can't appreciate what they have now or what's available to them. But there will never be one answer, Ed. People get caught up in that. You know, if you suggest something, oh, no, that's not going to do. Well, what about, well, none of us have every answer. But if all of us do something, collectively, we will change that. But
Now,
that's what young people need to see, the real story. So I would encourage all of those who can support to do it so that we can give our young people access to the real story.
Right. Well, that's the thing that I think is so important, and I have volunteers come in and mentors like you, individuals that's been in the corporate world that they want to give the real story. And you talk about the hurdles that you have to go through. There's the racial hurdles, there's the monetary hurdles. There's a lot of things that youngsters don't realize is part of life. Living, you know, but most youngsters think that, you know, I'm here, you know, the door's supposed to be open, and, you know, I'll walk to the top. But the real corporate world like we have here, they have to understand, in order to be part of this world here, and especially the democratic world, that we have to get involved in business. Business is one thing that I push. The economy, you look around and you say, where are the business associated with my race? You know, where are the corporate executives on my line? Do I have a chance to be a CEO?
Yes,
and well, I don't have the money. First thing, I don't have the connections. All of those things are part of success.
Yes. But you can't give up. The hurdles are there. It is tough, but we are built for it. We are built for it, and anything that's strong incurs resistance. And so you just have to learn how to make good decisions that will pave the way. You have to make good connections that will give you access, and we have to stay vigilant and believe it's my right to have this lifestyle.
Okay, quickly, tell us about this product that you have, this skincare made with natural ingredients, quickly.
Oh, yes. Of the many things that I do, I have created my own skincare line called Essentially Good. And Essentially Good products are made with natural elements. I always say,
that's a natural. You go to the tree outside and you get fruits and everything, and you actually make something.
Actually with jojoba oil,
whatever it is,
shea butter. Ed, next year I will be 60 years old, and